Oh, are we going?
Yep.
Welcome to Me Heads Podcast. What's going on? We're talking about 9/11 today with Big Sexy.
How's it going?
Let's go tinfoil hat.
I got a tinfoil hat on. It's good. No.
It is extraordinary, no doubt. But like that curve right on top.
Oh yeah, that,
no, I like
that
it.
detects globalist transmissions along with communist Chinese, and it directs it back at them. And it,
So it's
very
kind of like a
scientific.
mirror.
Reflector.
Yeah, it's like a HAARP transmitter for your head. Okay?
Yeah.
Holy shit!
Yeah, it's next level.
It's the future, man. Well, fuck. So, we were talking about China earlier.
China,
And
yeah.
kind of, we were talking about, like, I was saying, there's this natural flow of, like the strong, and then they get comfortable, and then they get weak, like the fall of all these empires and
We've
stuff. I was
gotten
saying,
off topic already.
in a couple
Nice.
hundred years, like,
Nah,
it's
it's
totally
fine.
possible
I
that the
know.
Asian part of the continent
good, man.
or the world would just, just take over the world, and America, like, we're just gonna blend in, and we're gonna freaking do our thing,
Well,
Yeah.
you mean America's gonna kind of decline
the
and
world,
blend in?
the world population, not a decline, but like just
Go the way of Britain?
the way the shit
Because
goes.
Britain isn't exactly great anymore, right?
Right? Yeah, it's just kind of the way it goes.
Sucks. Fuck.
Dude, I think they're like looking. I think they're looking to the future.
Yeah, looking to the future? I don't think so. I think
Yeah. I mean, they're like in terms of like science and shit. They're top of the world.
culturally,
Kind of.
though,
If
they're
you can
getting
talk about
pillaged.
stuff other
That
than
food.
if you can talk about stuff other than the Chinese method of governance, then sure, there might be ways, and their economic policies, there might be arguments to be made that they're doing pretty all right.
Right. In terms of their economy, it's been steadily growing since like the 70s, right?
Yeah, but there's
Are we
also
talking
questions
about
of
the
whether or not
Chinese?
that's legit.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's also questions of whether or not their economic growth is legit.
Well, they're
It's a very shady
like at
operation
least
they run
from the
over there.
class that I just took, it's like a few percent each year, and it was pretty high. It was like 6, 7, 8%
Yeah.
for a few years.
Yeah,
But the people
I
are
remember
getting
that
more
exact
actually
thing.
Getting
before.
old, and they're not having like.
Right. But
You're
if you
gonna
just look at the economy, the trends are that it's been steadily growing. Like
So-
there's nothing to indicate that it would stop growing.
The problems with that though is it hasn't been steadily growing. It's been right up until about I want to say early to mid 2000s. Yeah, you're right. It was growing like increasing percentage every year.
Right.
But since then it started to go down. It's
It
still
slowed
growing,
Right.
but the percentage of growth has started to go down.
Right.
And then another problem is higher proportion of males.
Right.
They can't
That's the
get
way she
laid.
goes. Yeah.
And
so
when,
that's true.
you've
So
got
they
a
start-
lot of young men who can't
moving
get
out.
laid, shit gets bad.
Well, they start going to other countries. You got
Well,
you
either
got
that-
They do
either
like the
that or you-
Japanese and start watching tentacle rape, like weird
Jesus.
degenerate shit.
So
can't
either
let that
that, or either what Justin said or what Ethan said, or they start to do things Arab uprising style.
right.
So that's what happened to the so-called
Getting
Arab
pissed.
Spring.
Getting pissed for pussy. Sometimes you got to
Getting
do it.
pissed.
Honestly, no. It takes like 2 to tango, and if there's not enough women, like you got to find
Fuck,
women.
how's
or
that
whatever.
socialism in Venezuela working out, boys? Ooh, not too good.
No.
Socialism usually doesn't work.
I
out too
don't
good.
think it ever works.
I mean, yeah, there's cases where it's like, well, we're doing good and we're partly socialist, but you know,
Canada is a fairly socialist.
yeah, and like
shitty,
in a lot of European
shitty.
countries, but it's like
Living
it's,
under the EU, I think would be like the most tyrannical rule ever. It just seemed horrible.
kinda
like,
sucks,
Oh,
yeah.
awful. It's one of the worst.
Yeah, when you've got some other
That's
larger
very
body-
pessimistic of you.
Oh,
But I just-
EU is awful. It should be disbanded. Like any means necessary.
like the idea of the
It
EU.
doesn't sounds good. Doesn't work.
right. I mean, I like the idea, but it's just like they shouldn't be able to make decisions for a country.
And especially because it's actually the Fourth Reich, because
Right.
Angela Merkel
What
has
the
so
fuck?
much control.
Right.
It's like Germany again. She dictates what all of this. Like they did it in the reverse of like the other fucking World War II. Still the same end goal though. She's got basically control over like all of Europe
Right.
because what she
Control
says the
Europe.
policies go.
Sure, that is a bit of a historical irony right there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right, right.
and she can let in however many people she wants. Yes,
Yeah.
no. She's like trying to blackmail like fucking
All
Poland.
right, hold
and
on a
shit.
second. Hold on a second. The Third Reich was all about getting people out. The Fourth Reich
it's like
is all about
it's
letting
like
people
it's like
in.
a version, but they'll come in and they'll take away like the culture of the people, and then they'll look up to like the EU, and there'll be no more like push back against it. They'll just take away all the liberties, tax this. It's a very maniacal plan, and they're leaking it into the rest of Europe. One of the strongholds we got, Russia, they say, fuck you, we don't want all these people coming in. And like Putin hates the EU. I don't think he's a big fan of it, and that's why it's like the one world government. That was like the little test they were
Globalism.
they were trying to do for like the new world order. If they could just do it in this little thing, and it worked, but it's starting to crumble now, I hope, but we'll see about that.
Right. They like
I
some
don't think
states.
it's crumbling, but
some states are like looking to
Probably
leave.
it's pretty strong. Like
It is strong.
It's
but
hanging
there's-
on.
But there are like some countries are starting to leave. So
Yeah,
you know,
so the thing
it
about
tells
the
you
EU is if
It-
it can, so it survives the debt crisis.
Well, the
more
thing
or
about
less,
the
right?
EU
Just hold on a second. Just hold on a second.
it
Hold
was-
on.
one
It
second
survived
before
the debt crisis more or less. And now, if it survives Brexit, or more or less comes out of it still functioning, then that's basically the two major problems of the EU that it can ever face. So if it survives that, then it can
Right.
survive into the future.
Yeah, except you gotta especially for Britain, the EU was started as just like a trade conglomerate. That's where
Yeah.
it was started, and then it got horseshoed into this. They can govern your hate speech laws or like your quotas. That's the problem. Like when everyone entered into it, they didn't enter into agreeing to what it is right now. It's
But
totally
they
morphed into
did.
something. No, they just
Nothing
for the
that
tr-
happens in the EU can happen without total member consent.
Yeah, of your elected. It's not like 100% of the people have to vote yes. It's of your corrupt elected people you put in there to represent the
Oh, I see.
Yeah. But,
I disagree, but okay.
well, that's fair
I
enough,
just
but-
see like basically regardless
you're
of like
wrong.
I think regardless of how it goes,
Wrong.
I can see the sentiment that I don't want some larger governing body making decisions for my country. I want my elected representatives making decisions
I want
for me.
nationalism. Every nation should be its own separate thing.
Well,
there shouldn't be this.
yeah, sovereignty. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
but
it's
you
not
know what the
even-
problem with that is, Ethan? There's no such thing as the nation.
Well, no. The thing
It's
is,
a
the
fucking
thing is.
creation.
All right, wait, hold on. I don't think it's necessarily nationalism, but just like sovereignty, like state. Like it's we need to make our own decisions for ourselves, not some other international, not the UN or something like that, right? I'm not against participating in the UN and making like collective decisions with things like that, but it has to be with your state's consent. You can't have the UN make your state's decision.
UN or the EU?
Either
He's talking
one.
about the
Either
UN.
one.
Okay.
Either one, because it's still.
I have the
it's
same
still,
viewpoint
It's
on
still
both of them,
globalism,
so,
right?
yeah.
That's what I mean. It's the same thing. It'd be saying like let's let Greenpeace make our laws for us. Like
Let's
no,
put
I'm sorry.
Greenpeace in jail. That's what I think. Fuck.
All right, do you want to? Okay, let's switch it to 9/11 here.
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
it's
Well,
what-
the point is, the world's really complex, and we're just trying to
course.
grapple with it.
Yep.
So.
so now that you guys have a taster of what Ethan's like, let's talk about 9/11.
Alrighty. What method are we gonna?
I mean, let's say
You know what? I think
to
we should just
start-
start with a statement.
To start, I'd
I
say
don't
just-
think it was an intended conspiracy.
Well, and it's also regardless, it was a tragedy. Like I don't.
course.
I think like regardless of who fucking did it, it's fucking horrible. Unless it was all fake, because that's totally possible.
Yeah.
Because some people say that it was just all those people are just actors and just
3,000
goes.
actors. Eh?
No, but I'm just making fun of the
No,
people that argue about this with like shootings and things. 'Cause
Yeah, like,
apparently there's
that's-
like this thing where some things can like happen, but it was fake, and it's like
Yeah,
crisis
it
actors and all
happened.
that.
It happened. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's. Yeah.
I think the thing, you wouldn't need that many actors. The people that died probably wouldn't know it. It would just be like the top of the food chain kind of knew what was going on. But yeah,
Oh, wait,
Sure,
so wait. So
sure.
getting into it.
Yeah. Well, to get into it, I think a good place to start actually is a couple excerpts that I took from the 9/11 Commission,
yes.
because then we can pick that apart a little bit.
And,
One of the interesting things to me is like there's this Dan Carlin guy and he talks about how today there's this thing
yeah, I know that
before
one.
you even talk about the subject. People will
Yeah.
question the legitimacy of the source, so they'll just say, "Well, what about the commission? Like, is it even real or not?" So like, it's getting
Yeah.
this thing where there's an extra layer on top of.
Well, all you know
talking about
is
things.
what they tell you. Like you,
Right,
that's-
right. You could say, well, the Warren report for JFK, that was obviously bullshit.
Yeah, no, but, and
You
actually,
know, that was like pushed through.
for this. The commission report, 6 out of the 10 people on it said that it was set up to fail.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
and,
right.
and it was
Yeah.
given $15 million to do its job. Fucking slick Bubba Bill, his Monica Lewinsky, $60 million. It was given such a small amount. There's,
Right.
I think I read the exact same source
Right.
you did on that.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, and that's
we agree on something.
We're just.
Malcolm.
I think we're all agreeing.
yeah,
we're all
no,
agreeing on
yeah,
the point
that's-
that the government is
that's back up,
sloppy
yeah.
as fuck sometimes, right? That's basically in all cases. In the Warren report, it was sloppy. It was like inconclusive, and they just ran it through for just to get it out there in a sense, which is what they did with this.
Don't forget about the day before 9/11. $2.3 trillion went missing.
Right. I've heard about
from
that.
the Pentagon, and
Yeah.
then after this happened,
I've heard about that.
Yeah, they
I've
couldn't
looked
figure
it
it
up
out.
though, and I've honestly, it's hard to find sources to find if
Well, it's
that's actually.
deliberately. They make it deliberately hard. When I was
Right.
googling like 9/11 and anything but like the official story, it's like they like do kind of hide, and you have to like really. There's like know what you're looking for. Like it was
Right.
just, like,
They were hiding it for you, eh? Because when I looked it up, okay, so just for background here, basically I did my best just to read everything from both sides. So
Yeah.
I read the official story, the debunking stories, and the myth stories, and the conspiracy theory stories, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I could find them all pretty easily. In fact, sometimes, like this one great article I read by Popular Mechanics was on the second page of search
yeah, I read
results.
that one.
I fucking love that one. It's great. I'm gonna quote it a couple of times in this episode.
Yeah.
No, I just think if you type, what I type in. If I typed in 9/11 conspiracies, it was like everything would just come up like debunk. Even though like if you look at it, it's not. Like I brought some good examples, and we can do a little thing where we kind of
Yeah, we'll do that.
unbunk the debunk. But
I think it's just interesting. And we know that happened with Facebook and Google, where you'll Google during the election, it would always be
Yeah.
favorable for Hillary Clinton.
that was
and,
big news that came out.
Right.
Like they were like yeah.
And so we kind of know that's happening, and like
You usually,
It's-
to be fair to Google, you don't notice it too much, but there is kind of like a bias on what you see, and obviously, like,
Right.
I think it's all intertwined into the government, right? Because like it's like the biggest information, like the internet. Google's the main thing, so like you gotta be crazy if you don't think the government's like, all right, I don't want you fucking around too hard over
Right.
here, you know?
Right. They do, and they are. With things like what's going on. It's certain.
Well,
they try to. There's
net neutrality now.
Right,
They
there's-
can make that even worse.
there's borders when they
couldn't,
infringe.
banning
like,
of
we didn't
net
have net
neutrality.
neutrality till 2015, and everything worked just fine. Like think about it.
Yeah.
Like that whole thing was blown out of proportion. Like.
Yeah.
Like I said on Facebook a month or two ago, it's like, because I was reading into it, everyone's losing their minds. And I'm like, well, fuck, who cares? Like, the Patriot Act wasn't very patriotic. What makes you think net neutrality is neutral? Like, I don't think.
Right.
Yeah, like they have the potential to get very greedy with it, but I think it's just gonna keep like it won't be like that one meme where it's like, oh, you have to order the $10 like news internet portion. That was like a joke, and everyone took it seriously. Like that was actually a thing.
That would be fucked.
That would suck. In that
Yeah.
case, I would flip flop like Benedict Arnold and say, "Where's my net neutrality back?"
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
don't think they're gonna do that. So.
Right.
I've heard the argument that they're gonna start really with things that you don't really care about, and then they'll slowly go to things you do
Yeah.
care about, like Facebook, yada yada.
Well, CNN can go first. That would be
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Oh, we got a few years.
They got to be subtle. And they got to steal your
Exactly.
rights
Yeah.
slowly and
They're gonna
quietly.
ease you into, it's like the
Speaking of,
frog in the hot water.
Failed news anchors. Did anyone see Megyn Kelly, ex-Fox, dancing around in a sumo suit on Ellen? Fuck, her career tanked.
No, I don't watch Ellen.
That's
No, you
unfortunate.
watch
Me
Ellen?
neither, but I get like highlights of the anime and shit.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
yeah.
oh.
Yeah,
All right.
it's good to keep tabs on your
Yeah,
enemies.
that's good. I like to see what
Keep your friends
stinks
close,
up at the
keep your
Young Turks
enemies
sometimes.
closer.
so,
Yeah. Yeah, it's fucking.
Anyway, so 9/11 Commission report. So I've just got a couple excerpts from the executive summary because who wants to read 500 pages of
Not
the actual
me.
report? That's fucked. Props to anybody
Gotta
who
read
actually
it
does
all?
it, but yeah, no, you didn't do shit.
Page 372.
It's in the WikiLeaks.
All right. So the first point that I've quoted here is existing protocols on 9/11 were unsuited in every respect for an attack which hijacked planes were used as weapons. It goes on to say a shoot-down authorization was not communicated to the NORAD air defense sector until 28 minutes
Damn
after
it, Dick
United
Cheney.
93 had crashed in Pennsylvania. Planes were scrambled, but ineffectively, as they did not know where to go or what targets they were to intercept. And once a shoot-down order was given, it was not communicated to the pilots. In short, while leaders in Washington believed that the fighter circling above them had been instructed to take out hostile aircraft, the only orders actually conveyed to the pilots were to ID, type, and tail. Like the national defense, the emergency response on 9/11 was necessarily improvised. So that's
How
one point
fucking
right there.
crazy would it be if you were just some random plane that day and there was just fucking fighter jets following you?
It'd be horrifying.
Holy fuck. I would
Yeah,
shit
especially
myself.
if you're like training.
I already
or
don't like
pilot
flying.
school.
No, I hate flying, man. Fuck
Yeah,
that. Keep
it
me
like
on the ground.
I'm going up. Holy shit.
I'm in a tin can now, son.
Yeah, holy fuck. It's crazy.
But yeah, I think
It's pretty safe though. It's safer than driving.
No, fuck it.
I
did
know
read one
it's crazy.
statistic,
It's an irrational
like,
fear in a sense.
people stopped flying so much after 9/11 and started driving more to their
Right.
destinations. And
Good for gas
there,
companies.
there were more
That's why they
car
did
crashes.
9/11 for the gas
Oh,
companies.
we solved it. Okay, the podcast is done.
Holy
Fuck
shit.
you, Chevron. Good night.
But yeah, so after 9/11, people were driving their cars more instead of flying, and more car crashes happened. Tons of people died
Right.
just in like the next year or two.
That's
maybe
what I
three.
call the butterfly effect.
Yep.
Sure. Next point. Okay, so the most important failure was one of imagination. We do not believe leaders understood the gravity of the threat. The terrorist danger from bin Laden and Al Qaeda was not a major topic for policy debate among the public, the media, or in Congress. Indeed, it barely came up during the 2000 presidential election campaign. Al Qaeda's new brand of terrorism presented challenges to U.S. governmental institutions that they were not well designed to meet. Though top officials all told us that they understood the danger, we believe that there was uncertainty among them as to whether this was just a new and especially venomous version of the ordinary terrorist threat the United States had lived with for decades, or it was indeed radically new, posing a threat beyond any yet experienced. As late as September 4th, 2001, Richard Clarke, the White House staffer long responsible for counterterrorism policy coordination, coordination, not coordination, that's not a real word. Anyway, Richard Clarke, the White House staffer long responsible for counterterrorism policy coordination, asserted that the government had not yet made up its mind how to answer the question, is Al-Qaeda a big deal? A week later came the answer.
Right.
So it seems like, yeah,
It's like,
the whole
that's just-
ineptitude argument has a lot of traction to me.
Right.
But yeah. Also, so one criticism of the 9/11 Commission, which I think is pretty valid, is it failed in its duty to take sworn statements from major players in the government of the day. This is especially concerning given the fact that Secretary of Defense at the time, Donald Rumsfeld, was not the one taking control of the situation during the crisis. He was, in fact, absent. It was Vice President Cheney who directed the responses and dictated policy from the White House bunker.
Could I add one thing, Malcolm?
Sure.
It was also 441 days before the starting of the commission after 9/11 actually happened too. So
Yeah,
he
so that's like a year and
yeah, he definitely thumbed his
about a
ass, which
year
I think
and
was
3.5 months.
deliberate. They were what was the story? They were like obviously trying to still find out evidence, but like also it's like, or were they patching it up so it all looked
Right.
okay, right?
I mean,
Like,
it could be either way. It's like a massive. That's like a crime scene on a
Yeah.
ridiculous scale, you know. But
yeah, it's possible that they just wanted to clean shit up. But at the same time, like, damn, JFK, 7 days later, they started the inquiry.
right. I mean, but
and again,
right. Wait, that's when they waited a year
Same
to
with
start
Pearl
the
Harbor.
inquiry,
yeah, 441 days,
and then they started it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck.
But yeah,
Yeah.
so it turns out
That's not
both Pearl
good.
Harbor and
No.
JFK, both of their
were
inquiries
they-
started 7 days
Were they
after.
gathering evidence in that whole time, or
Yeah,
was it?
Fuck, who
I
knows?
think they were
They must-
I
stalling.
think the inquiries,
Yeah.
the whole point of the inquiry is
part
to
of it.
gather.
Yeah, and make it
Evidence, yeah.
make it systematic and
Yep.
to do efficiently.
Yeah,
and shit.
but it was it started 441 days.
yeah,
So
yeah.
on the 442nd day, they would just begin to actually like
Right.
verify all the information. Like,
Well, they probably
Right.
not even that. They were
no,
probably
it was a shit show.
trying to
Probably.
organize
Yeah.
their shit. Like,
What a
Because
gong
and to be
show.
fair to the government, like if it's wasn't a conspiracy, which I'm not sold on that it wasn't. Who the fuck plans for this kind of thing? Like, so, oh fuck. Even if you put a thing like a program, like if the all hell breaks loose, this happens. Fuck, it probably won't work that way in like real time. So like,
no.
that could also be one of the reasons. It's good to examine
one
both
of the
sides of the evidence
reasons-
here, folks.
That another reason that I'm not confident it's a conspiracy is that, man, okay, so the sign of a good conspiracy is that nobody notices it, nobody starts questioning it, nobody starts, especially to this degree. So the fact that there are so many questions asked by all kinds of people suggests that if it was a conspiracy, it was the shittiest conspiracy
Well,
ever
it was
done.
a very janky operation. Like I think they thought people were dumber than they actually were. For a lot of it, they'll just believe this. But instead, a lot of people are like, fuck, wait a minute here. Like,
I mean, it's crazy that they've basically done it and thought about it and tried it before.
I
Right.
believe they
And
did
that's
That's
JFK
Operation
too.
Northwoods, right?
There's a few of them, like there's secret
Boys,
CIA
I do have
experiments
a
and things like
section
that.
on Operation Northwoods right here in my
Right.
notes.
Do you want to talk about it a bit?
Yeah, so
Let's get into it.
yeah,
Fuck yeah.
Operation Northwoods, that was basically a false flag that
It didn't happen.
it
but
didn't
it was
happen.
planned.
No, Kennedy said no. It came
Yeah,
to his
it went
desk
to
and
the
he said,
chiefs of
"Fuck
staff,
yeah,"
and
it's like-
the chiefs of staff had signed it.
Yeah,
and they
and there's
needed
other
Kennedy.
examples too. Like I don't have any notes on it, so I don't want to speak on it because I'm not. But the USS Liberty, that was a false flag as well. There's like,
Dude,
Oh, the Gulf of Tonkin was as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
me and Malcolm
this is
literally swam and touched the USS Liberty in
Yeah.
Indonesia.
Yeah,
Is
we
that
did.
the same fucking boat? Is it in Indonesia? Or there might be two of them because that's fucking badass. Because I've touched that boat.
Good question.
It's under the water.
Yeah, I distinctly remember that.
Badass.
And basically, what it was is the communists had just revolutionized and taken over Cuba, and the U.S. was like, "Oh fuck, I don't really like this too much. It's the dirty commies coming
Yeah.
again." So they wanted to like try to take it out. So
Hold on, no.
They planned
No, hold on. The USS Liberty happened in 1967.
different one.
yeah,
Yeah.
different.
Okay,
So
wait, yeah,
which boat did we touch?
that was the USS Liberty. It was just
They might have done it as a
just a different
commemorative boat or something.
Yeah, some kind of shit. But or no, that one was earlier. Maybe I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Anyways,
and what
yeah.
the CIA plan of Operation
Oh.
North was
Let's keep going with this.
was
USAT Liberty. Yeah. Anyways.
same shit. Not really, but it would be like do something kind of like where exactly like 9/11, right?
Get a plane,
Yeah.
blow it up, blame it on
Commit
the
acts of
Cubans.
terrorism among American military and or civilians using acts of terrorism is right. This plan that Kennedy
Right.
said no to.
Yeah, they were gonna get a
And
drone
and look what
plane
happened.
and blow it up.
We could make like I think you guys already did an episode on JFK, but like
No.
We've talked about it.
Yeah,
a
you can
bit.
spend a whole fucking evening
Yeah,
talking about that,
yeah.
and so.
Yeah.
What makes you think that after he vetoed it, the same people weren't in charge of the CIA? Passed
Exactly,
It
yeah,
down,
yeah.
Passed
It's-
it down. You know,
it's-
'cause,
I think
like,
it's naive
that's
to
deep
say-
state right there. And
Right.
it's finally,
I'd say it's
Are you
naive to not.
referencing- Are you referencing by any chance that movie you made me watch? It's called JFK to 9/11. Everything is a rich man's trick.
no, some of it. I think that movie is very good. It gets you thinking. I don't agree with all of it, but I do agree with some of it.
If you just want to talk about that movie for a second, I'll say a lot
Yeah.
of the points that it raises, like the individual points, I think they're pretty solid.
Yeah,
But
it's
but
made
the
with love,
connections
for sure.
between them.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
see, I
It's
think
just
on-
That's like
ridiculous.
every
On all-
Michael Moore movie ever made, or is it the guy that does those documentaries?
The big slob.
Yeah,
Yeah, Michael Moore.
Yeah.
every one of his movies are like that, making these false parallels between.
Yeah, but what this movie did is it basically started you from kind of World War II-ish and like
Before that, World War
yeah,
One.
Yeah, but that was
Well, just
very
before World
brief,
War
and
II,
then
yeah.
it kind of set up for that. And I was like, the bankers how like Ford backed both sides, and it's like, he sold tanks to Germans and then to the Allies, and they were just making money. Who cares, right? Hitler actually like idolized Ford. He thought he was like a fucking like genius. And what
He was a
this
pretty smart guy, don't
Yeah.
deny.
And what this does, it ties it from there. The people that kind of took over deep state, like into
The
JFK
industrial side.
and then into 9/11. It's like, yeah, it's
Right.
it's very interesting. I'd recommend everyone should watch
so
it.
it ties
It was
like
tough
the,
to watch, man.
Really,
I got a question here.
It's 3.5
does
hours long.
It
It's-
ties.
yeah. Well, I got time.
I got a
man.
question here. I got a question. All right.
Yeah.
So it ties the industrial kind of part of the state to like the government and the deep state.
Yeah, specifically
Because
the
Because
industrial
like with
barons.
Ford, right? You're
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about Ford and stuff.
Well, it goes even back further
It
than
kind of
World War
like
One.
how it
even.
like started and how we got to the current like where you have like
Right.
a Goldman Sachs that control
Right.
or, like, and like
A lot of
Bankers and shit,
keywords.
Yeah.
Rothschilds,
Yeah.
Illuminati,
Yeah. Of course.
American Nazis,
yeah.
Oh right.
and
They got to the moon.
I mean-
I don't even think that the deep state was actually explicitly mentioned.
Hmm.
That's-
Maybe it was, but I don't remember.
That's a kind of a
did
popular.
you also watch
you know,
the whole 3 hours of it?
Oh yeah, I watched the whole damn thing.
Were you coherent?
Yes, it was. Yeah, it was bad.
Well, they're talking about the deep state there, bud. So
Well, yes, like they're
They don't,
referring
you don't
to
have
it,
to
but,
call the deep state. It's
but that's
just
what
like,
that's what I was
yeah.
saying. Like, I'm talking about keywords here.
Anyways, wait. So for a second, are we done with Northwoods? Because I just want to conclude with
Yeah,
that.
we should finish up Northwoods instead of
it's basically they're gonna get a drone plane, blow it up, say there were civilians on board, blame it on the Cubans, and use that as an excuse. So, but one of the things, so it makes me think, kind of to conclude that like it could happen again. Why not? But at the same time, I think if you're gonna argue that they did 9/11 to go into Iraq. They did not need 9/11 to go into Iraq.
Not at
Saddam
all.
Hussein had given the U.S. enough excuses to go into Iraq without needing 9/11. So
Except
I think
if
that's
not
a-
to pass stuff like the UN and all like this, like to not declare them like invading for no reason, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, they had their reasons though. They already did. They could have gone in. They had already gone in the 90s. They could have gone in so many times.
But
There's
how would the public perceive that if they
It'd
just
be a-
went it
they
right?
could
But, like,
sell it very
this
well.
it didn't work for them in the long run. But
Right.
if something like this happened, and everyone believed it, and they'd be like, "All right, fuck, let's fire
Right,
them up."
right.
And there
It
wouldn't be a
helps.
Public,
It definitely
a public
helps.
backlash, but it kind of they failed on both ends there.
right,
like,
right. I think it's interesting though, because like the justifications to go into Iraq were already all there.
Yeah.
So I think it's to do 9/11 just to get that extra. Like
I don't even think it was justified to do the war. Like I think it
Not
was a
really,
dumb
no.
move, like for
Terrible.
sure.
Didn't they go to Afghanistan first because
Yeah,
of that?
Afghanistan
Yeah.
in I think it was December of 2001 or so.
Right.
Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
hunt for the boogeyman. Like, who fuck?
Yeah, basically.
Right.
Um,
Which they also should have gotten earlier.
yeah, the thing about starting the Iraq War is that they had the justifications to intervene in Iraq, but they didn't have the justifications to invade and to topple the Saddam Hussein government. And I think that's what they wanted.
You gotta get the
Specifically,
oil.
Right. I mean,
George Bush Jr.
right.
He wanted to finish what his dad started.
Right.
Like that's pretty common knowledge.
I wish he
um,
did.
I'd like to, 9/11
He
was
did,
an
but he shouldn't
inside
have.
Jeb Bush. Okay,
Jeb Bush was the mastermind.
please clap.
Yeah. The saddest part of the
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
thing.
Uh,
Oh my god.
oh, Malcolm
So-
almost took a tumble.
Yeah, I don't know. And it's I just don't think, okay, if we just say 9/11 was an inside job,
Yeah,
why did they do it? What was the motive? It was to go into the Middle East
yeah. I think
and then set up these oil companies and these guys that get very rich.
also if they did it correctly, they could like install
Regime
which
change.
They did, yeah, but their regime,
change.
but that's worked so
Right.
well in the past.
Regime change is like another euphemism.
Yeah,
really.
it's like, oh, we got a regime change. I hope this one doesn't go rogue like the last two.
Right,
Like,
right. No, but I think the idea, I think if they did it right would be, ideally you want the Iraqi people to be autonomous. You want them to have their own fucking state and not have to worry about the Taliban, all this other shit.
I want nothing to like do with
exactly
like, them, and then they should want nothing to do with us.
But I think I think that we could have justified going in and getting rid of that regime though. But I don't think we needed 9/11 to do it. You know,
we
I don't think we needed it.
When they took
Iraq.
When they did that though, it was pretty much
they kind of messed it up.
Yeah,
like I'm not saying that they did a good job. I'm just saying that I think they had the justification to do it. You know,
fair enough.
And I would love the freaking Iraqi people and in Iran as well, where they're protesting. You know, that for them to have control and not have to worry about these crazy fanatical religious leaders.
That's
making
that's
decisions
where we
for them.
need social justice warriors. They only focus on first world problems. Like they don't.
Right.
Like,
right, that's the thing. I think a lot of the things that they're complaining about
because it's like,
yeah, SJWs. It's like I get where you have things to complain about, but like if you're talking about like government policy and what we should be really spending our time on, I think it should
an extra 50 cents.
Or how
I think
about
it should be. We should be looking at poverty, education. We should be looking at things like that. You know,
okay, so you're right, but at the same time, why
I'm not saying we shouldn't be.
I'm
not saying we shouldn't be talking about it, but you know they make it. They make it like
already doing both.
Right, it's true.
And is that really causing that much of a problem? Maybe you might say so, but I don't. I think shaking shit up is always a good thing.
Right. Generally, yeah.
So
no, I'm not against people shaking shit up. I just feel sometimes I'm like I get where you're coming from, but like, don't you think there are more important things in the world? I mean, yeah. I'm not really taking anything away from them.
Well, that's really all about the individual priorities there.
Right.
I was going to say, I don't know about Iraq, but I think for Afghanistan, they didn't have to start a war on terror to get into Afghanistan. All they had to do was start a war on drugs again. Really. Yeah, because, I mean, the only problem with that argument, though, is that the Taliban had a 99% success rate in eradicating opium in the couple of months before
and then you also think too, Osama bin Laden was a U.S. hired like actor too, like with the CIA.
Yeah, wasn't he trained by the CIA?
Yeah, he was.
And then he kind of went rogue and did his own
that
thing.
was the problem. Yeah, so they set him up with all his knowledge.
And Saddam Hussein, he used to be buddies with the US in the 80s.
You want to take a step back here and explain to me how you came to that conclusion?
It's in the files. I got like...
No, that's true. Yeah,
that's true.
That's true. Osama bin Laden was...
Oh, you're talking about how he was in the Mujahideen.
Yes.
I believe so.
Yeah, okay. I thought you meant like literal actor.
No, I use that as like if you're like actor of the state, you do like
yeah. So the Mujahideen,
that would be ridiculous.
But obviously by the time 9/11 happened, he wasn't a U.S. actor. He was, you know.
But it's just like there's so many little things that all come into this one thing. Like
I read a very good explanation of why that is. Basically, they were resenting the fact that America gave them enough money to fight against the Soviets and to prolong the war, but not enough. Okay, so enough money and supplies and aid, etc., but not enough so that they could actually win the war. The Americans gave them just enough to prolong the war, destroy Afghanistan in the process.
Well, that was the point.
The point was to bog down the Soviets for 10 years in Afghanistan. And cause them to have the massive debt crisis, which caused the U.S. to collapse. Yeah. So that was the point. But in the process, you fucked up this entire country, and the Mujahideen were fucking pissed about it, and I think rightly so.
Right.
Sure, it may be that it was a necessary evil to take down the Soviet Union, but maybe some restitution was in order.
Where were the Soviets in all of this? I mean, it could have been the Soviets that did 9/11.
Shit sakes. The Soviets, maybe they could
actually Putin was at that time. Wasn't he president already?
Wait, you're suggesting that
Putin did 9/11, man. Look, it's in the WikiLeaks. No,
I've got
not to confuse people.
One paper I have, which I think some of his points are like I can debunk his debunk. I think, But like one of them is kind of cool. I've got all like a list of like all the things. Like one of them is like it was a Jewish inside job. The most ridiculous one.
That's fucked up.
There was a mini nuke in the basement of one of them.
I read that one.
I was like,
I think I
what
read
the-
that exact same one. I got.
Fucking mini nuke.
Yeah, it was like it's like small, tiny little nuclear bombs in
I know
in the
it's just
basement, or other bombs in the pillars of the buildings themselves.
This
Like
one?
fucking hell.
The mini bombs.
Yeah.
All right,
it's
what-
exactly
okay,
what I
out of
read.
10.
It was a funny
gotta-
coincidence. The writer's name is Mike Rothschild.
Yeah, that was.
like,
Okay, wait, we gotta
yeah.
take a quick, because I don't really know it, but out of you two, out of 10, how credible is the mini nuke theory?
I'd
Zero.
give it about a -1.
All right, okay, we're done with the mini nuke.
Yeah.
All right, what else do we got? I mean, these are all things in favor of it being an
Okay,
inside
so-
job.
No, okay, I've
We're
got
doing
one here.
both. We're doing
Strikes by other than planes. So
Right.
I'll just read a couple points here just to give you. A
This is
backdrop.
out of the report, or
No, this is a conspiracy theory.
These are
Okay.
some. I just
So-
got a list of some.
yeah.
of
You guys,
these,
you guys
yeah.
should take turns going with some of the
Yeah,
some of
so
the
I've got one here.
possible.
There's a theory that it was a missile strike as part of an attempted military coup, which caused the damage to the Pentagon. Said theory,
Fucking military coup.
I know, right? Said theory argues the holes in the Pentagon itself were too small for the Flight 77 plane to have made. But the rebuttal of that is that the DNA of passengers and the black boxes aboard Flight 77 were found at the Pentagon crash site, and the small hole is explained by a wing having been shorn off, by lampposts, etc.
Yeah.
They're all bent over, being shorn off during the initial crash with the landing gear, which indeed created a separate hole in the building. It kind of flew off as well and just smashed in. But then another weird point, kind of like the rebuttal to the rebuttal, is that the data on the black boxes was deemed, quote, unrecoverable by Donald Rumsfeld. And that's the first time in
Well-
40 years that's happened, because the
Well,
whole
I
point
mean-
of a black box is it's like a big fucking safe
Right.
Yeah,
right.
where everything
but
is
the-
recorded.
but the DNA
if you
on
don't
it.
think the FBI and CIA have the black box in a vault, you're being naive. They
Oh, they
have
do
it,
have it.
big time.
No
Right.
doubt they have
But
it.
I mean-
but they also said that it was like the
But-
contents were unrecoverable.
Yeah,
Like the
I
data.
think that's
Right.
probably also horseshit.
Well,
They'd
that's
say
that's
that
just
either way.
their nice way of saying we're gonna keep it secret for a while.
Yeah, but no, like they definitely have it because they admitted that they found the black boxes.
Right. So, but okay, this is like a separate thing we're going off here, which is the whole Pentagon thing, and I'm like less certain on that. I know I'm more like Tower 7 kind of guy.
Yep, Tower 7,
which is
I
a big
wanna
one
get
we'll get
into
into, I'm sure. But
Yeah.
let's
Yeah, I
do
also
like the
have,
Pentagon for a little bit.
notes
'Cause-
on the Pentagon here.
right. Yeah. Well, let's.
So another strike by other than plane theory is that it was all remote control, and it suggests that the flights which impacted the World Trade Center were controlled from the ground and never actually hijacked, and assumably never had passengers or something.
Malcolm, can I just
That's
add
another
on to
one
your
of those
point
things where-
quickly?
No, those people
yet
didn't
all
die.
the phone calls received from the passengers and crew of Flight 11 after the hijackers took control, but before the crash, made abundantly clear descriptions as the situation unfolded, and they were all corroborating each other. Right?
Yeah, and
so there was messages that
People were calling from.
right.
right. This is
From
my
the
last.
plane.
So they're
hour
clearly
by-
people. You know,
Yeah.
Right.
Unless
This
another one of those-
conspiracy
just one
says
guy
that everyone
voice
is like-
morphing.
yeah.
yeah, it's another
like,
one of those
They
ones
showed
where
all, like,
oh,
the
they didn't-
families of people that was just like the actors on
Okay,
the
that's
plane.
another one of
have
those-
fucking.
This is one of those
technology to
0
do
to
that.
10 credibility ones, right? Because real people died, and
Yeah,
you know.
but and a little same.
planes.
This one kind of is on with like the whole fake thing. A small section of conspiracy people think that it was actually missiles flown into the trade tower with holograms.
Oh,
on them
yeah.
to look
Oh,
like
right.
planes. And they
Yeah.
cite the
I think
shoddy
there's something
video
to that
footage,
one.
but that's like another -1 in my books.
Right.
Yeah. See, the thing about shoddy video footage is like you got to remember this is 2001. A lot of people were probably using cameras from the
Like
late
camcorders.
90s.
Yeah.
Like those ghetto,
Or
Yeah.
like your 0.3 megapixel like.
Yeah.
block.
It's like it's
Yeah.
But even the official like. I don't know,
dude. Even the news broadcasts of the day, I could still see the grains.
Yeah,
on it,
it
right?
was
So
Yeah, and those are with nice cameras. Yeah, okay, so that one's another bullshit one.
yeah.
You got some fucking dirt on the Pentagon because I
Yeah,
think
I
the
got some
Pentagon's an
Pentagon,
interesting one. So there
there's-
was 2 planes that hit the towers, right?
Yeah.
And then there was a plane that hit the Pentagon.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then there's a fourth plane, which
This-
I think was supposed to go hit the White House.
Yeah,
Oh,
that one
But
got
it was
shot down.
Yeah.
They got shot.
It wasn't
Yeah.
shot down.
Well-
It was taken down by the passengers.
Yeah, but
They the
that's-
passengers were doing
that-
something, and then the hijackers decided to crash the plane.
yeah, that's another thing. Too, because in that wreckage, many of the first responders were like, "This does not look like where are the bodies? Where's the parts of the plane?" It looked like it was like that. That's debatable too.
I don't know anything, but
That's
I
another
tried to read up on that,
conspiracy,
but
like,
it's
yeah.
tricky.
Yeah, no,
but there was a fourth plane that went down
Yeah.
with people on it.
so called right, like,
Okay, so we're not really sure on that.
well, it's,
Well,
do you
The-
believe it or not, you
but
can
the
either be
official
sure.
story is that there were people on it, right?
Yes, of
okay.
course.
Yeah, okay. So that's it. That's interesting. So, like, it's everyone, like, at least for me, like, very shallow knowledge of 9/11. It's like I've gone into it a little bit, but I'm just like, there's too much, right? And it's
Yeah.
just kind of give up on it. But
I've spent 3 days trying to research this, and still
Right.
there's stuff that I looked at it as like I can't get into this because I
It's crazy.
just can't do it right
But
now.
all right.
Like, I
So
don't have
what
the
else
time.
do we have going on the Pentagon?
Yeah, well, on the
Or keep going with what you were just giving her.
Oh yeah, well, Flight 175. That's one that crashed in. Oh no, that's a different. Okay, so what's the one Flight 99 that crashed in
Dude,
Pennsylvania?
that's the one from Lost.
fucking right.
Just kidding. It was actually a
Big
different
Hurley.
dimension. It was.
Yeah,
So the one that crashed in Pennsylvania, the only question I have is like, why crash or fake the crash of a plane, but leave out the details of bodies? Like you think that it would be so difficult just to get a bunch of cadavers and stick them on there? Like fuck, even if you just put fake blood in there, like the whole point of my point here is that if you're gonna fake a crash landing of a plane, why not cover all the details? Why not cover all the bases?
Right.
Because
So
wouldn't
that's
it be
why I'm-
easier to have a range place to say shoot a missile, right, as the plane, and then get a few like FBI, CIA come dump some rubbish and then take off, right? Like that's easier than like loading bodies into an actual one and more cost effective too.
But shooting a missile into a field in Pennsylvania?
Wait. Also, this is.
Why do that?
Like to make the rest of the whole grand hoax
Wait, hold up.
look.
It's interesting because each time we make one of these theories, it involves that many more people, and then it's that much more likely of them leaking it, right?
Yeah,
That's another
that's
interesting
the
one that
problem.
makes me think that it might not be conspiracy because, like, there have been people that said, "Oh yeah," and then you hear about them getting killed or dying off or whatever,
But
right?
like
But
most of the
wouldn't it be
people
on a
that it
grand
happened
scale?
to wouldn't even know. It would be like
That's true. So you're
like they'd just be like, "Oh, well, I can't believe this happened," and they may question
Right.
it later, but at the time they had no idea, right?
at the time, yeah. But
Yeah,
then,
at the time they had no
then
idea.
you'd think
and
that there would be a lot.
you'd only need the top like 1% of everyone to actually know, and then everyone else just went with it like it actually happened, right?
Right.
That's the thing. Like every
Right,
police
I see.
station, every general wouldn't know about it.
Right,
like,
right.
Maybe it would just be the top 1% that did, then let the dominoes fall as
Right.
they may after you did it. You don't need
Right.
to convince that much people. It's not that I'm saying like, oh, this person wasn't real.
yeah, I see what you're
They
saying.
were,
Yeah,
but
they were like, they just
you
following
wouldn't-
orders. kinda thing.
99% of the people wouldn't have to know. They'd be oblivious. That would
That's
be
like same with the drone strikes. They just sit
Oh,
down
yeah,
in their
big
little
time.
box, and you've got the orders that yes, you can kill this person. You don't know, where those orders came from, why you're killing that person.
Fucking drones.
You're just pressing a button. But
Thanks,
that's-
Obama.
I think it's interesting to
I think
think
Bush
about
started
all the
that.
people involved in the conspiracy.
time.
If it was a
Yeah.
conspiracy,
Obama pushed
That
it
ramped
up,
it up,
a
and
notch,
then
yeah.
Trump's ramping it
I
up
think
too.
I think Donnie's I like my new toys.
Obama was the
It's
one
like-
that introduced the naughty list where you get to blow people up.
Yeah.
And okay it.
Oh yeah, the OK hit list or whatever it's
Yeah,
called.
yeah,
Kill, I don't know, whatever. It's,
yeah.
but
Some
I know
dirty-
exactly what you're talking
dirty
about.
list of names.
I think we can pause for part 1 right there if you like.
Yeah, I'd like to take a piss and a smoke if that's okay.
Hey, that works with me.
All right.
Okay. All right. So for you guys listening, we are going
All 15 of you when we. It's like-
to all 3.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. It's all 3 of you. We're gonna
Fucking right
take a
it
pause
is.
right now. We're gonna upload a second video
We're coming out with part 2 tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Buy the DLC. Exactly.